Yo, ladies and gentlemen, we are back again, and whether you have or haven't been following this P Diddy trial, after watching this video, you're never gonna want to hear P Diddy's name ever again. Let's check this out. Okay, cool. So here we have Mona Kosa Abdi. She is a TV host, been covering the P Diddy trial from day one. She's put together a few videos detailing all of the information that has taken place inside the courtroom with Cassie and everything else that comes with it. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you hit the like button. Let's check this out.
Offs, secret sex tapes, and a hotel beatdown caught on camera. The trial that could send Diddy to prison for life kicks off today. So let's break it down in 60 seconds. The trial is expected to last 8 weeks, with 12 jurors deciding his fate. Prosecution, a team of all female attorneys, say he lived a dark double life built on drugs, sex trafficking, and multi-day coercive sex performances called freak-offs, allegedly directed by Diddy himself. 3 witnesses are expected to testify, including Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend believed to be victim number 1. Her 2023 lawsuit triggered this case. Now, Diddy denies everything. His lawyers say that this is about sex shaming and targeting a powerful black man. The defense claims that there are at least 9 freak-off tapes that...
Let's be fair, he finessed himself when he done that apology video. Or who was he apologizing to? Because he never mentioned Cassie's name.
...owned devices for years and turned over to the government, and that they show consenting adults having fun. No other celebrities. They even cast Cassie as the dominant one. And then there's the 2016 hotel video showing Diddy kicking and dragging Cassie, expected to be a key piece of evidence. But the big question remains, will Diddy take the stand in his own defense? I was in the courtroom as Cassie was testifying, so let me tell you guys everything that you didn't see or may have not heard, because it's a lot. I will say the most damning part of her testimony for me is when she describes a freak-off where Diddy and another man, an escort, are standing on top of her while she is laying on the floor high off of ecstasy, and they are urinating on her face to the point where she is choking on their pee. And to further give context, on the right-hand side of the court seated is her husband, Alex Fine. On the left-hand side, Diddy's 6 out of 7 kids are sitting in the courtroom as Cassie is describing having weekly freak-offs for years that would last 2, 3, one lasted up to 4 days. She talked about damaging hotel rooms so bad in one instance that they had to pay such a hefty fee because the hotel told them that they needed to completely redecorate the room after a freak-off. After a freak-off, there would be blood, urine, and lots of baby oil. There was so much baby oil. There was also so much baby oil talk to the point where the judge at one point told prosecutors, wrap it up. But before we even got there, a very pregnant Cassie was called to the stand. She was wearing a tight, brown turtleneck dress that was hugging her baby bump. When she sat down, you could tell she was nervous. And if you couldn't, you quickly picked up on it, because once she started talking, you noticed that she paused a lot. She would sigh heavily before she answered a question. One of those moments was when she explained to the court that a year into their relationship, that Diddy had approached her with this fantasy that he had. He called it voyeurism, where he wanted to see her have sex with another man, later referred to as freak-offs. She said her stomach dropped. She was 22 years old. She described herself as very naive and a people pleaser. She said the only reason that she agreed to it is because she knew it would make him happy, and she was afraid what would happen if she said no. That's also around the time, she says, that he started to get abusive. Most of her testimony today was spent on talking about these freak-offs, the different escorts that they would use, the different hotels that they would use. She said that she would find escorts off of Craigslist and this escort service called Cowboys for Angels. And to describe them, they weren't the most attractive men, right? They were very average looking. Some of them weren't even conventionally attractive. One thing they had in common is most of them were black, because Diddy preferred for her black men with a big D, she said. At one point, Cassie broke down in tears when the prosecutor asked her, why didn't you leave? If the freak-offs, as you explained, were so disgusting and humiliating, why not leave? And she started crying and said that she was very deeply in love, and this was the only alone time that she could get.
She was delusional. Sorry to say it. How can she be deeply in love when a guy is putting her through the worst demonic experiences you can imagine?
And it got to a point where this was kind of the only emotional connection that she was getting from this man that she was dating. So much more that I'll cover in another video, including his incessant phone calls, him tracking her down with his security, and her never being able to escape him. Cassie first walked into the courtroom day 2 of the Diddy trial you could hear a pin drop. Now, reportedly, Diddy and Cassie before that hadn't seen each other since 2018, but her gaze was fixed forward as she took the stand. Meanwhile, Diddy kept looking over, stealing glances at her. And I could only imagine how shocked she was when she finally did get a good look at him, because he was wearing a gray crew neck sweater and looked very different, not just from 2018, but from even a few months ago. The only person that I did notice that she was looking at is her husband, Alex. I also noticed that she kept fidgeting in her chair. Now, she is 8.5 months pregnant, but she was also sitting there for hours getting question after question and also having to recall a decade's worth of dark memories. When she's speaking, her tone is very matter of fact, and she also was pausing between her words as if she was struggling to get the words out. She's also soft-spoken, but you could also hear her voice shake when she was recalling certain memories. She would also laugh nervously if she didn't understand something, or she would lose her train of thought and ask the prosecutor to ask her the question again. In the beginning, when she was sharing certain stories, her eyes would fill up with tears and she would dab a tissue occasionally. But then at one moment, she just broke down and really started crying. In that moment, you could tell, even though she's in a better place now, she was crying for her younger self who loved a man so dearly and would do anything to please him. And inside the courtroom, there isn't much commotion. It is federal court, and they are very strict over there. If the judge is in the courtroom, shoop, it is silent. As far as reactions or facial expressions from Cassie's husband to Diddy's kids to the jury, everyone is really stoic. You're not seeing many facial expressions or reaction. At this moment, this jury is very hard to read. There were some raised eyebrows at times, for example. There was one jury member who was smirking when they kept going on and on about baby oil. There was one jury member who just kept going like this, and I couldn't tell if he was tired or if he just couldn't believe what he was hearing. And I did see one or two of them yawning, but you have to understand that they've been here for hours. There's also this one exchange that I thought was interesting where the second witness was on the stand. He's a male exotic dancer, and he was getting cross-examined by Diddy's attorney, Xavier Donaldson. And he asked him if he wanted to, he asked the attorney if he wanted to clarify something, if he wanted him to clarify something. And he was like, nope, no, thank you. And just kind of cut him off. And there were two Black women in the jury that went, oh, when I tell you that's the most reaction I saw. As far as Diddy's kids go, 6 out of 7 of them were in the courtroom, along with the 7th child's mother. You want to note that the twins, who are 18 years old, and Chance Combs, who's 19 years old, the 3 girls, all left the courtroom when the second witness was called, who is the male exotic dancer. But they were there the next day during Cassie's testimony for the whole thing. The first question that prosecutors asked Cassie was to identify Diddy. They pulled up a picture of him at an award show, and they asked, is this the man that you refer to as Sean Combs? She said yes. Then they said, is that the same man that you see in the courtroom? She said yes. They then briefly touched on the abuse that she says she endured during their decade-long relationship. They also touched on that now infamous 2016 hotel attack video where she confirmed that it was taken immediately after a freak-off. Then they took us all the way to the beginning, back to 2006 when Cassie and Diddy met. She was 19 at the time. She was living in New York. She was a model turned singer who had a hit song, Me and You, on the radio. Diddy then convinces her to sign with Bad Boy to a 10-album deal. Now, she knew of Diddy before.
10-album deal. Talk about sell your soul to the devil. Big up Just Her Rock, because she left a comment here saying, for context, Beyonce only has 8 studio albums, but Cassie signs to P. Diddy for 10 studio albums. Really and truly, he really liked her. And instead of telling her how much he liked her, he signed her up to 10 studio albums, knowing she's going to be with him for the rest of her life. It's absolutely crazy and cruel and demonic within itself. Obviously, there's probably more context behind it. I haven't deep dived this and looked into it that much, but based on what she's saying, this doesn't make any sense.
Met him. She says she was a fan. She knew he had a larger-than-life personality. Now, Cassie says in those days, the relationship was platonic, that Diddy, as a boss, would look out for her, that when she bombed a performance, he was there to support her and also protected her. She says she was excited about the possibilities of where her career.
I mean, he was really liking her, feeling her at that point. That's the reason why he was going out of his way to protect her. Of course, that's his artist. You want to protect your asset. But we obviously know the real reason why.
Under Bad Boy. And that didn't change until her 21st birthday. She went to Vegas to celebrate the same time as the VMAs. Diddy was hosting a party, so she attended. At that party, he makes a move on her. He kisses her in the hotel bathroom. She says she was thoroughly confused. She's not familiar with the music industry, and this is an executive kissing his artist. So she says she starts crying and runs out of the bathroom. The two are now back in New York, and he starts inviting her over to his place. His apartment's getting renovated, so she says he was staying at the Trump Hotel. And as she goes over there, they start talking music.
And after she cried and then ran out the room when he tried to kiss her, did they not speak about that? Well, he just started sending her texts like, yo, come to mine. And she was like, all right, cool.
Developing a bond. They also started to get intimate, and Cassie says that Diddy was actually the person who introduced her to the concept of oral sex. Really shamed her into it. So what happened is he gave her oral sex. She went home. She didn't realize that she was supposed to reciprocate. So then she heard about it, and he called it crazy that she would just leave. So then she says from there, he taught her how to do it. But she points to this to show that she was not only naive, as she kept repeating, but also
she was frigid, basically.
Experience when she met him. She says she starts developing deep feelings for him and wants to be around him all the time.
So now it makes sense. It's starting to make more sense. Like if she was frigid, never had any sexual experiences prior to Diddy, it makes sense as to why she was so delusional enough to fall in love with this prick.
So when she finds out that he's going to be in Miami one weekend, she concocts a plan that she's going to create a fake flyer saying that she's hosting a club down there so she has an excuse to be there. Her plan works. They end up spending the weekend on the yacht, partying, loving up on each other, and that's when he introduces her to ecstasy and they have sex for the first time. From that point on, she says she felt like they were inseparable. But in hindsight today, she calls herself naive because she didn't realize that although he made her feel like she was in a monogamous
she was being played.
Relationship, that she at the time was just one of many girlfriends. And in fact, he was still having relations with his ex-girlfriend, Kim Porter. She says they decided to keep the relationship private for many years from that point, partly because
her being dumb. We have it, her being dumb, indirectly responsible for what's more or less happened.
Partly because he's a music executive who's dating his artist, and that doesn't look good. But the other part was because of his kids. But she says he brought her into his world.
Come on, he's got kids. He was seeing Kim, he's music artist, but you still continue to play along. Like that's how you got to look at it. Now, I'm not saying what Diddy's done to this lady was right, by no means whatsoever. Absolutely disgusting what she went through with P. Diddy. But based on what we're hearing right now, it's kind of like she saw the signs from early. And although the situation was more or less political, still continued with the relationship in private.
It's at his beck and call and lots of partying. She also says that he controlled every aspect of her music career, how she looked, how she sounded, how she dressed, what songs that she would record. Songs that we now know never were released. Cassie let out a heavy sigh. Ooh. Prosecutors asked about the first time that Diddy brought up the idea of a freak-off, except he didn't call it that. She says that within the first year of the relationship, he approached her about a fantasy that he has and called it voyeurism. He said that it would turn him on to see her have sex with another man. She was 22 at the time, and she says her stomach dropped. Except in her own words, she actually said, "My stomach fell to my butt." She was nervous and confused. She says that she didn't understand how that could be a turn on, but also in a strange twist, she says that she felt the responsibility of him sharing that with her and that she didn't want to shame him. She said she loved him and she wanted to make him happy. So she hesitantly agreed. And within a few weeks, Diddy had already set up their first freak off. She says that he assured her that they would hide their identity. So they wore masquerade masks, took ecstasy, and hired a male escort. She says afterwards,
that's some Illuminati stuff.
She felt disgusted with herself, but then she realized
that's literally what he was replicating. He was trying to replicate his own version of these so-called Illuminati parties.
And then started to feel happy with herself because she realized that she did something right, which is please him. She says she realized very quickly that she didn't want to do freak-offs, but was in love and also didn't know what no would turn into. And then I noticed that she started fidgeting in her chair when she said that she didn't want to make him feel uncomfortable for knowing his secret. I do want to note that around this time is also when he started to get physically abusive. She also made a note that at this point in time, he had complete control over her entire career. She said she was super young, naive, a people pleaser, and she was worried that he would leave her, or worse, that he would use those tapes as blackmail. Because she says you never knew what Diddy would get. One was charming, the other was dark.
That was extremely interesting, ladies and gentlemen. It seems like there's more parts to this, but she hasn't uploaded them yet. So it looks like there's going to be a part 2 for us. I'm sure most of you guys are going to be feeling absolutely disgusted, but I need to know exactly what you are thinking. So leave all your comments down below. Make sure you hit the like button. Do subscribe to the channel if we are new. There will be a part 2. As soon as she uploads part 4, part 5, part 6, I'll be reacting to them. So make sure you don't go anywhere. Turn your notification bells on so you don't miss out on future videos. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.